All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome this evening. We're glad that you're here for our college planning event. This evening, we have some great presenters for you this evening, and lots of good information to begin your process as we start thinking about not only next year, but life after West Potomac. My name is Kevin McMahon. I'm the Director of Student Services. A couple housekeeping items. Hopefully you received the agenda as you came in this evening. You also received a survey, and one of the things we'd like to do is we're always trying to strengthen our programs for families, for our students. If you could take a few minutes at the conclusion and be sure to leave that with one of the representatives from Student Services tonight, that would be very, very helpful. I just want to introduce those from Student Services that are here tonight. Ms. Liz Carter, our College and Career Center Specialist, who I'll be turning the mic over to in a minute. A couple of our counselors, Ms. Watlington is here this evening, Ms. Panzenhagen, Ms. Cave, Mr. Johnson, I think, is across the hall helping out, and Ms. Jordan from our Parent Center is here with us this evening. So if you have any questions about any of the information you hear tonight and you'd like to follow up, we're all here to be a resource for you, as well as our whole team in Student Services. Before I go any further, I'm going to introduce Mr. Luis Portilla from Radford University. We will have an identical program going on across the hall in Spanish for anyone who anyone would like to attend across the hall, so I'm just going to introduce Mr. Portilla. Thank you.
Buenas noches, me llamo Luis Portillo y estoy aquí con los empleados de West Potomac. También vamos a tener ese programa en español si prefieren oír todo esto en español también. Pero vamos a estar en el cuarto 507.
All right, we have, as I mentioned, lots of great information, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Carter to share a little bit about our format for tonight and introduce our speakers.
Thank you. You're looking at a lady who loves a microphone, so bear with me. I want to welcome all of you. Thank you for coming to our College Planning Night for Juniors. I'm very excited to be here at West Potomac High School, and I hope that myself as the College and Career Center Specialist, as well as our very, very strong counseling team, we're all here to make sure that your process is smooth. So that's what we're here for, and that's my goal. So tonight, after our presenters present, we will be here to answer some questions. So feel free to take your time and make sure your questions get answered. This is only the beginning of the information that we'll be sharing with you. It's also our goal to make sure that the juniors know some real specifics when we meet with them in their junior classes. So there's plenty of time. My gift to you this evening is that you leave here with just a little snippet of information that you need so that we're not in panic mode in the fall. The admissions process is a process. It takes more than a day to get all of the I's dotted and the T's crossed. So hopefully after this evening it'll give you something to think about and for your students to think about. We are very fortunate this evening to have a very well-respected, knowledgeable, beautiful panel of experts here. They're colleagues of mine, and they're going to be speaking very specifically about certain topics with the college admissions process. The first one that will speak this evening, she will talk about the college visit and the college admissions process. She is from a representative of Louisiana State University, a regional admissions coordinator, and her name is Janicia Fortnite. Janicia. And next, I'm sorry, Michael. The next person that will speak is Chris Carr. He's the Assistant Director of Admissions at the University of Mary Washington, just down the road. And Chris will give a little bit of information about the Common Application. He'll actually even pull it up so we have a visual to see what that is. And he'll explain what the Common Application is and its purpose. We also have tonight with us Mallory Shear. Oh, Chris, raise your hand. I didn't. That's Chris. Sorry, skipped you. And we have Mallory Shear. She is the Director of Business Development, and she's very, very knowledgeable about the SAT, ACT process. So we have a good presentation from her. And we also have with us tonight who's going to speak about the community college option, Regina Sanders. Regina, she is currently a pathways counselor at Northern Virginia Community College, and she can talk to us a little bit about the community college option. We also have from the Northern Virginia Community College, he's the financial aid manager at the Alexandria campus, Jimmy Major, and he's going to give a little bit of information about financial aid and scholarships. So I won't rattle on too much as I like the microphone. I will let Janicia come up and give you her little spiel about the college visit and college admissions process. Janicia.
Again, my name is Janicia Fontenot, and I'm a regional admissions counselor from Louisiana State University. Graduated from LSU in 2011 with a major in communications and a minor in sociology. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your college visits, as I'm sure most of you, if you haven't already, are going to start taking those, and then also a little bit about the application process as well. So how many of you have done a college visit already? Awesome, awesome. So going forward, for students, we know that oftentimes the college visit can be the determining factor in whether or not that's the school for you. While you're there, of course, you want to pay attention to how you're feeling, what you think about the campus, whether or not you're feeling overwhelmed or feeling very much at home. So just a few tips whenever you're getting ready to schedule those visits, and then also once you're there. One thing that we definitely encourage our students to do whenever they're looking to go to a school is to either A, get in touch with the admissions counselor, or to start checking the website to see the different types of visits that are actually going to be available. Because there's a lot more available than just the general campus tours. So the first thing we encourage students to look for is whether or not the school is going to host any sort of open house. Several schools, I know for example, LSU does something called a Kickoff LSU, and it's a program where high school seniors or high school juniors are able to come to our campus, see 2 different senior colleges that they're interested in, and then they spend the afternoon taking campus tours, residential life tours, checking in with admissions, financial aid, and then they can go to any other group sessions that they are interested in. Everything from parent and family programs to student life, Greek life, anything that's interesting to them. So you definitely want to check with your college to see if they're going to have any sort of open house or a senior night or a junior night that they're going to be hosting. Several of them last all day long. So those are very interesting. Now when you're scheduling those group tours, which is most common, is that what everyone kind of went on, the group tours? Anybody? Yeah. Okay, awesome. So with those group tours, one of my favorite things about them is that they're often led by current students. So who better to address your questions and concerns than someone who is currently at the school? So I always tell students, if you're looking to go to one of those, write a list of questions, just things to have going on in the back of your head before you even get there. If you hear about any programs that are specifically interesting to you, know when you go on that tour. Another thing I tell students is to try to put their phones away. If you want to snap a picture or something here and there, that's great, so you can have an idea later, but you really want to pay attention to how you're feeling on that campus and making sure that you're feeling comfortable, making sure you're not overwhelmed or you're not underwhelmed. So you really want to pay attention and be in the moment as you're visiting these schools. You also want to check and see if the school is going to offer any sort of residential life. If you want to live on campus, you want to know where you're living, what type of environment you're going to be in, how safe are you going to feel in those residential halls. So also check and see if residential life, if those types of tours are available, and then also honors college. Anyone interested in going to an honors college? If you change your mind and decide that you are, you'll also want to check in and see if there are any sort of honors college tours or anything along those lines. You'll also want to check, especially when you're doing those group tours, call the admissions office. See if there's going to be an admissions representative there on the day that you're visiting, because oftentimes they are more than happy to sit down with you and talk about your college application process. Every school's application process is going to be a little bit different. Some are similar if you're looking at large public universities or private schools, whatever type of school you're looking at, a lot of their processes are going to be very different. So if you're already going to be on campus that day, why not call the admissions office so that way you can sit down with someone that day and you can talk one-on-one about your particular situation. I go to West Potomac High School, this is my GPA, and I've taken the ACT, I'm thinking about taking it again, here are my scores, what do you think? So if you can go in and sit down and speak with someone, we definitely encourage you to do that. Now on to the college application process. Have any of you kind of looked at your schools to see what the requirements are? Awesome, awesome. So I definitely encourage students, especially right now, this early in your junior year, if you know there are 5 schools that you're definitely going to apply to, start researching them. If you can get in touch with an admissions counselor about that school, call them. Do you publish your requirements? What do you think I should be doing right now? Great thing about today's internet is that so much is already available there. So I encourage students, when you start researching your schools, you want to look for some key things. You want to look and see what their requirements are. Do they require the ACT or the SAT? Do they super score if they're going to require those scores? Do they have minimum requirements in certain areas? So look at what they're looking for with testing. Some schools don't require the test. So you want to look and see exactly if your schools are going to require those. When you're looking at the GPA they require, if it says they're looking for a 3.0, look further. Are they looking for that unweighted or weighted? Because unweighted and weighted are going to be a little bit different. You also want to find out if they're going to recalculate your GPA once it gets over to them. Because then it'll be a little bit different as well. So the good thing for you guys coming up as juniors, you're going to know at the end of this year kind of where you are with your GPA for that upcoming application season. So make sure you're looking at those different factors. Now if the schools are requiring interviews, you want to know that too. You can start practicing and doing mock interviews with maybe your parents or with your counselors. So if the school's going to require interviews, look at that. If the school's looking for essays, letters of recommendations, you also want to make sure you secure those types of documents early. Because as we know, the college application process is starting earlier and earlier. Some applications start as early as August. So there are some schools who use that Common App. I think probably most of them, we'll hear about that in a minute. But there are also some schools that don't. LSU is a school that doesn't use the Common App. So students have to apply to us separately. So if you know you're applying to one of those schools, you want to double check all of the dates. Dates and deadlines are going to be very, very important for you next year. So you want to know, when is this application going to open? How do I submit my documents to them? Is it something where my counselor is sending in documents, or am I sending them in electronically? So you want to look at exactly how those documents have to be sent in and the deadlines. So you want to know when the application is going to open. You want to know when the scholarship deadlines are. So scholarship deadlines are also very important, of course. We all want to get as much money as we possibly can. So you want to look at the scholarship deadlines, honors college deadlines as well. A lot of them are typically in November, just for that early action, early decision if you're interested in any of that. So you want to look and see exactly when those deadlines are going to be. And then the next thing you want to know is when they're going to start releasing decisions. Now, after you go on ahead and apply to the college, the next thing you want to do is make sure that you use, or actually while you're applying, be sure you use an email address that you're going to check often, because the school's going to stay in contact with you. They're going to let you know we've received everything we need, or we need another transcript, or we haven't gotten your test scores yet. So you definitely want to use an email address that you're going to use often and that you're going to constantly check to make sure that you stay in communication with the school. The other thing is, get to know your admissions counselor. The earlier the better. I'm an admissions counselor myself. I already speak with parents of juniors, parents of sophomores. I spoke to a parent of a freshman the other day. So please feel free to call, email, any questions that you have before you apply, while you're applying, or even after. Be sure to check in and let us know, because all of us are more than happy to help you. So I guess that's about it as far as college visits and then the application process are concerned. And then we'll open it up for questions after.
Yes, thank you. I meant to mention that, are you okay? We will entertain questions after all the presenters are done. That way then everyone's question will get answered, and those who don't want to hang around and listen to questions, they can leave for the evening. So I thought that would work out a little bit better. Okay, next up we have Chris Carl, who is here from the University of Mary Washington, and he's going to give us some information about the Common Application. Now I'm a lady with 2 months.
How's everyone doing today? so as you just heard, the college admissions process is an entire process, and I am tasked with telling you just about one piece of that process. So how many of you guys, either have older siblings or have heard of the Common App? Just by a show of hands. Okay, so it's not as overwhelming as you'd think. So the Common App really was brought along a long time ago to, stop people from submitting 11 or 12 different applications. Now, I don't suggest you apply to 12 schools, that's probably a little much, but the idea is that you go into this one place and fill out one application and then submit it to a bunch of different places. So I actually brought up the website here, so this is my fake little account, and I'll get out of the way. So when you guys go to commonapp.org, this is the actual website. So this is the Common App that you're seeing. So it kind of allows you to organize everything by school that you want to see, and everything here. So it's got your little dashboard. So I also applied to the College of William and Mary to not be biased towards just my school. But so here's the actual application. So it's going to ask you a lot of questions, and a lot of times the questions that I get from students and their parents are, how accurate do I have to be with this information? Because it'll ask you things like, especially if we're a state school, we're going to be looking at things like this. So like, when did your parents register to vote in the state of Virginia? Because, you might not think that that's an important question, but that might come down to whether or not you're going to get in-state tuition starting off. It all is self-reported, and if we need more information, we'll ask for it. But it's going to ask things like this. So it's pretty much like if you've ever applied for any job online, really, this is what they all look like now. So it's going to ask you your personal information, your address, all these things that, I say if you sit down and you're going to carve out about maybe, an hour and a half to 2 hours, you can finish it in one shot. Don't feel like you have to, though, because you can save at every single one of these spots here, and you'll see these green check marks as you go through. Now, something that's relatively new to the Common application is that you can go back and change the actual answers. So this comes into play a lot when we're talking about the essay, because the essay is built into here, because I'm sure you guys have heard and maybe started talking about college essays, yeah? Yeah? Okay. So there are prompts that are built into the Common App. So if you go here and edit, you'll see the different prompts. So these are actual questions. These are very important, especially depending on the school that you're applying to. So, maybe some, bigger, more competitive schools are going to actually be looking to see if you're answering that prompt. So here, I don't know can you guys read those? Am I in the way? No, you can't read them? Okay. So like the middle one there says, reflect on a time when you challenged a belief or idea. What prompted you to act? Would you make the same decision again? So that's just one of the prompts. Now these are universal to the Common application. So they did change it so that you can go back in and change your answer based on what school you are, but I really, just having seen a lot of applications, I don't recommend that you do that, because especially if you're answering that question, correctly, there is no room at the bottom to be putting, and that's why I think that I'm a good fit at the University of Mary Washington. That doesn't really answer that question, and we know that you think that you're a good fit by the fact that you're applying. And I'm telling you that you don't think it's going to happen to you, but once you click submit to the University of Virginia and you have our name in it, that's going to rub them the wrong way. So just don't change it. You'd be surprised how many times you see it happen. Now, so when you're actually answering the essay, if you go in, that's a great essay, by the way. It's just a bunch of, nothing. You can actually cut and paste from, a Word document. So make sure that you're not, just don't type it right in there because, the spell check isn't great in there. So I also have read a lot of essays this year, more than any other year, where none of the letter I is, the pronoun I is capitalized. And, we do notice these things, so we'll read through them. Just make sure that what you're putting in there is truthful and honest, especially in this area. So, with everything, that's going on, nowadays and things like that, this disciplinary history comes in huge because we want to make sure that you're going to be a good fit at our school, and any school really for that matter. So, these questions really ask anything, have you ever been suspended from school or, gotten in trouble for any misconduct? That's the first question, and then the second question is, you have to disclose if you've committed any felonies or crimes or things like that. Now, do know that just if you answer yes to either of those, it doesn't necessarily disqualify you from admission. but we may want more information. So just be honest and upfront, because if something has happened, we're going to find out about it. So just be wary of that. But as I don't want to give you guys too much with the Common App, especially this early, just because there is a lot of pieces to it, and until you start to actually fill it out, it might not, make a lot of sense as you go through each of them, each of the steps. But the Common App, as you mentioned, does open actually August 1st, and there are over 500 schools that take the Common Application. So not all of us do. A lot of Virginia State schools do, Mary Washington included. But just know that if somebody says that you have to give precedence to the Common Application, they can't really do that. So if they also have their school application, you can fill that one out. But yeah, I guess that's really everything you need to know now. And then I guess what I'll leave you with is, so this is you've gone on your college search, you've gone on all your different tours, you figured out what schools you want to apply to. This is where they end up going. So once you found them on the Common App, they're going to go in here in this order, and you're going to be able to see how you're doing along with each of those steps. So if they have a writing supplement, the application, and the deadline, and then so like for us specifically, you can see how you've done. So it kind of tracks it along, and then each of the other documents can be sent through Common App. So this is a huge thing that you're going to have a lot of questions with as you go through it. But usually when we get specific technical questions, we direct you to Common App's customer service, because they have 24-hour email customer service, and generally they get back to you within an hour. So that's the technical end of getting through it. And know that, like you mentioned, you can pretty much reach out to any of your admissions counselors. We're here to help you through the process. We're not here to just read applications and tell you who can and cannot get in. So we want to help you figure out if this is the place for you. So yeah, I guess that's where I'd leave it without this early in the process.
Can I just ask one quick question? When I went in to look at this, I thought I understood it to say that at a certain point in time, everything is deleted for that year. So it wouldn't be good for us to start now, because is that
I wouldn't. So next year, 16-17 opens August 1st. So until August 1st, don't even bother.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
This one works.
I didn't do anything at all. Yeah, if we could just entertain questions when all the presenters have presented, that way we'll save time for those folks who really don't want to stay for the questions. So if we, thank you, Mr. Carl. Next up, we have information about the SAT and the ACT, and Mallory Shear will give us some information on the SAT and ACT.
I'm actually going to do a short time. Okay, so I'm going to go for it without a microphone. Please let me know if you cannot hear me. Okay, first thing that we are going to talk about is the differences between the two tests, which at the moment have gone down to about 10%, because as of March 5th, the SAT is brand new. Dun, dun, dun. For all the parents in the room, it has now gone back to a scoring system that we understand, so we are in good shape. Everyone else, we'll get you guys caught up. There are some major key differences and now key similarities, and we're going to cover those first. Key similarity between the two tests now. With both tests, this is very important for students to understand. There is no guessing penalty on either test. No guessing penalty, which means across the board, you should never, ever, 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 ever leave a question blank. Because all you can do is gain points. You cannot lose points. Okay? Other things to know about this, and I should mention that we have actual hard copies of everything that I'm going to be covering that you can pick up later. So don't worry about trying to grab all the notes at the moment. The biggest difference is going to be the timing of each section. If you notice, with the SAT, the reading section is 65 minutes long. That's a long time to be reading. Versus on the ACT, it's only 35 minutes, okay? On the SAT, you have 2 math sections. One calculator, one non-calculator. On the ACT, it's just one math, but it is really, really fast. Okay, that's another key difference, is that the ACT is a much faster test. In the math section, you have to do 60 questions in 60 minutes. That's insane. That's insane for some of my tutors to do. Okay? So one of the big differences is how many questions you have to do in a certain section. ACT has a science section. SAT has science questions, but they're going to show up in your reading, they're going to show up in your math, and they're going to show up in your English. And then you will end up with a science sub-score, not a separate science section. Okay? Another big change is that on the ACT, geometry is still king, and now on the SAT, algebra is king. Okay? These are just some major general differences. We're going to talk a little more specifically about each section. Go forward, please. The math section, as I mentioned, SAT, 2, calculator and non-calculator. The other thing is that there are student response questions, which basically just means they're grid-ins. They're not multiple choice, you fill in the answer choices. ACT is still all multiple choice. Okay? The ACT across the board in every single section is still a much faster test. Okay? They're still testing you on your processing speed. ACT, geometry, SAT, algebra. SAT has also now decided that math fluency is more important. So when they used to give you y equals and give you an mx plus b formula, I'm talking mostly to the students in the room, you guys know what I'm talking about? And they would ask you to solve for x. They will no longer ask you to solve for x. They're going to give you a scenario and say that Joe and Tom are outside shoveling snow. One of them takes 3 hours to do it, the other takes 4 hours. Rather than saying how many hours does it take them together, they're going to say, given that information, which of the following formulas best fits this scenario? Okay? That's math fluency. So that's what we're seeing on the SAT. Okay? That's just a little bit about the math section. Don't panic about the no calculator. You really don't need it. The reading section. This is a big difference to keep in mind. When the SAT changed over, they realized there was a study done that showed that individuals entering the workforce had a reading comprehension level that was lower than that required to be successful in the workforce. So now the SAT said, okay, no problem, we're going to take care of that. And now the reading level required on the SAT is up at grade level 13, freshman year of college. So that's automatically going to be harder. Your ACT is still saying 10 and 11. So SAT is going to be harder, ACT is going to be easier, but which test do you have to go quicker on? Which one? Okay, so you've seen the benefits. They're different depending upon which is going to be better for you. With the tests, they are pretty similar. You're going to see 5 reading sections on the SAT, 4 on the ACT. Something to note really quickly about the SAT reading sections, one of them is going to be really difficult, and the others are going to be really manageable. We've seen that across the board with all of the practice tests. One was really hard, the others were okay. So if you get in there and the first one's really hard, don't panic, the rest will be all right. The other thing is that on the new SAT, one of the reading passages will be something related to some kind of historical document or United States referenced material. Some are saying that's a little bit biased towards native-born individuals. I'm not going to comment on that. Commenting by visual look. The reading and English section, they look identical. Literally, I could hold them up next to each other and you would not be able to tell the difference. That has to do with the fact that the writers for the tests were the same, and I don't mean friends, I mean literally the same. The gentleman who runs the college board went to the guys who wrote the ACT and said, come work for me. They have a headquarters, ACT has a headquarters in Iowa City. And they said, no, we're good, we don't want to move to New York, we're very happy where we are, we don't want to move our families. So he said, no problem, I'll be back. He bought a plot of land 2 miles down the road, built a building, came back and said, I have a building and I'm going to pay you more. So the ACT writers wrote the new SAT. So when I say they look identical, it's because they literally are identical. So here you're not going to see much of a difference. Okay? In terms of looking at the test, there are some very distinct pros and cons, depending upon what you consider a pro and a con. SAT, more time per question across the board. No individual science section. Some people consider that a pro.